We've got an amazing conversation coming up, which is going to be led by Rosemary Koech Kimwatu. She is the policy manager, Safaricom PLC, and she's not a stranger to public speaking. But before I tell you a little bit more about her, the conversation will be on what are the growth opportunities in 5G. And 5G is a conversation that, of course, a lot of apprehension when it was first announced, a lot of mystery about it. I think we are slowly just understanding a little bit about it right now, and that's why this conversation will be important and sort of give an overview. And as you all know, telecommunications companies in 5 other African countries, that is Gabon, Lesotho, Nigeria, Uganda, Egypt, and Morocco, are already conducting internal trials for 5G, meaning it's not yet available for public use, but what have we learned from 5G launches across the world? That's the conversation we will have, and it will be led by Rosemary Koech Kimwatu, as I had mentioned, a well-seasoned speaker. She has led policy initiatives in Kenya, pioneering the development of a public policy platform, velam.co.ke, and also mentors young women. She has been a public policy manager at Safaricom since 2020, and the influential women in legal tech nominated Kimwatu as one of the 2021 influential women in legal tech. So we have a very solid lead in this conversation in amongst the panelists. So for those who are joining us, there are only 3 panelists who are joining us virtually. We have Opeyemi Praise, Head of Network Operations Center, Nigeria. Daniel Obam, Chairman, Radio Communication Advisory Group, ITU. We should be having Titi Fakuade, CIO, MTN, Liberia. And Alfred Omolo, Senior Technology Consultant, Copycat. So it is indeed a continental conversation. So over to you, Rosemary.
Good afternoon, all. Thank you for being here. I think I can praise all of you who are in the room for being the tenacious lot. It isn't easy. Yeah? Karibuni sana as we move towards, the final panels of the day. And I'm happy to introduce my amazing panel today, where we're going to discuss 5G. What are the growth opportunities? I think MTN and Vodacom launched with a lot of pomp last year. Safaricom, first in East Africa this year, something we're very proud of. It was an amazing milestone for us. And now, we're going to be discussing what next for the growth of 5G. It's been a buzzword. We've heard about it. At some point, even at the start of the pandemic, there are questions. Is it related? Is it whatnot? Today, we're not getting into voodoo science. My dear panelists, I was just introducing our discussion topic for today, which is 5G. And so far, it's been launched and all that. But what next for growth? What are the 2 things that we need to do in order to switch on ourselves to adopting 5G technology? So are we as Africans ready to harness the benefits of 5G? As my panelists introduce themselves, Karibuni sana. So, welcome. Praise. Go first. I see.
All right. Okay.
We're now 3. Welcome. We're now more. So each of you introduce. Start with Praise.
Okay. So Praise is, my name is Opeyemi Praise. I head the network operations of the 4G network, also open to go to 5G. And I've been in telecoms for well over a decade. I've also helped to shape the policy in Nigeria. I've been part of much of the policies that come out of the NCC as well. I've also helped in demystifying the mysteries around 5G when people were scared that it was deadly. We had a number of seminars and also educate people that 5G is not deadly. So I'm here to be part of this conversation. Hello, Mombasa. Thank you.
Welcome. We introduce you virtually to Mombasa. Hopefully next time you will join us physically. Mr. Obam, kindly introduce yourself.
Hi, Rosemary. This is Rosemary, right? I think I know you from before. Yeah, I'm Daniel Obam. I was invited here in a capacity that I don't hold as the radio communication chairman for Africa Telecom Union. So, but I'm here. I'm a policy and radio communication policy or spectrum policy expert. So that's the capacity which I'm invited here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Obam. Next, we'll have Alfred Omolo. Good afternoon, Alfred. Welcome.
Okay, good afternoon to you. Nice to meet you. I'm here as a senior technology consultant, primarily with working with service providers. I have more than a decade of successful experience in deploying IP transport and mass-scale networking solutions.
Welcome, Alfred. So, first and foremost, I'll start with Alfred. What opportunities does 5G offer for us to leverage our growth in the fourth industrial revolution? What are your thoughts on that?
It is interesting the way you mentioned that it's the fourth industrial revolution. And I believe by that you mean that this is a time when everything that can be connected will be connected. And therefore will experience the full force of transformative technologies like artificial intelligence or autonomous vehicle driving systems that will actually become part of the way we live, the way we work, the way we play. But are we there yet? Well, now this is what 5G is actually trying to bring to the table. Because you see, when you talk about 5G, it actually delivers what 4G cannot be able to deliver. That is blazing speed, maybe up to 20 gigabits per second. And because of the network slicing that can allow operators to offer end-to-end differentiated services, then it means not only fast speed, but ultra-low latency services. Now, what that actually means is that massive amounts of data can be relayed between connected devices and systems, and therefore allowing near real-time communication for these systems. So when we think about this perspective, we're actually saying that 5G is able to offer super fast speed and data analysis that can therefore be used to make such systems like driverless cars possible, cloud-connected traffic control, smart sensor, latent smart city applications, providing an environment for them to truly thrive. So if you think about opportunities that can be used, is like especially in the IoT field, that can be used for utility companies, gaming, self-driven or automated vehicles, and most of we can actually even take more advantage of cloud solutions, whether it is hybrid, whether it is a multi-cloud solution, because 5G makes that available to us. Now, I can give one particular example that maybe would be more common to ask you. For example, if a regulatory authority was to come up with a smart road management safety system, what does that mean? It might be able to show the location of all incidents on the road, of vehicles that are there. It is able to ensure that every single data input has geolocation tracked. So you can think about it as an accident. Then the relevant authorities can quickly respond knowing where that vehicle is. Fast responders like the first aid team know exactly where to respond and go. That information can then be plugged in to a public transport information system that can help us to know, well, avoid this road because there's an accident. It can be integrated with cashless payment system. So the limits are almost endless because of the error that 5G can be able to provide fast speed, low latency, allowing augmented and even virtual reality applications.
Thank you very, very much. And the next part I want us to move is something that is very dear to me. Before we have an adoption of all these technologies, we need to set the ground. And preparing the ground in terms of tech is tech policy that comes up. And we're going to have a regional policy leader speak to us in terms of nuggets of wisdom. Mr. Obam, what nuggets of wisdom can you share on the regulatory attitudes that should be adopted for the adoption of 5G? Share with us. We're happy to soak in. I think you're muted. Kindly unmute. You're still muted.
My apologies. Yes, I was muted. My apologies. I was saying that I don't think they are nuggets of knowledge. This is just common information that we have. I think similar to what Alfred said, 5G has the potential to be one of the key technologies that is enabling the digital transformation of our economy. Alfred called it the fourth industrial revolution. I'm calling it digital transformation. So this means we are linking everything from smartphones to sensors to manufacturing and industrial robots to eventually autonomous vehicles, self-driving vehicles. So 5G, because of the potential that has been mentioned, will play a key role in transforming our cities and even our rural, communities, so that our citizens who are now underserved or unserved can actually realize and participate in the benefits that are delivered by the digital economy. So from a policy perspective, fostering the potential of 5G's capability will require that we address some elements which I'm going to talk about here. And these range from the cost of the technology as well as the infrastructure for it. So perhaps some of the questions that we need to ask from a policy perspective will be, how does 5G promote sustainable development? And when we talk about this, we are talking about the SDGs. What are some of the, and this is key, what are the key uses or applications? Normally, I'm not an IT person, but we talk about killer apps. What are the killer apps for 5G that will drive its adoption? And of course, we have to say, what are the challenges that we are facing today in the deployment of this technology? So for people in the policy space like myself, the question that we should be asked is, what should we do together with other stakeholders to develop policies and strategies that support these use cases and exploit existing technologies as well as new 5G technology, so that we provide solutions to the problems that we face. So in terms of whether we are ready, benefits, I've gotten some information from Accenture, and this relates to the US. So if it is happening or it can happen in the US, then definitely it can happen on our continent. And these are the estimates that 5G is estimated to create about 16 million full-time jobs between now, full-time, part-time, and temporary jobs between now and 2025. It will add about 2.7 trillion in additional gross output. It will add about 1.5 trillion to the US GDP, which combined is greater than the 4% of all the global GDP. There's also a theory that 5G has a multiplier effect, that for every job created within the ICT sector, an additional 1.8 jobs will be created. So this theory says that 5G create about 2.8 total jobs. And of course, being a new technology, with all the new emerging technologies, AI, augmented reality, there are still many innovations that we don't know. So if one country is projected to benefit like this, definitely we can get a piece of the cake. And I think there is not about if or whether. I think it's just how do we deploy it? And maybe that question should be, we should have deployed it yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Obama. And I like that we've gone from an overview of 5G to the regulation, but now I want to move to Praise. Praise, my question to you. We're speaking to our room full of technologists. These are the people who will actually get down to build the technology, to build these super platforms that will require to harness the power of 5G. So what are some of the key insights you'd give to players in the tech community seated here today to promote the adoption of 5G? I like how Mr. Obama spoke about, day-to-day examples of ride-hailing, smart technology at home, and all those other kind of use cases. So what would you say to technologists seated here in the room to harness the power of 5G?
All right, thank you, Rosemary. Yeah, one of the things we must know is that the rate of obsolescence of radio access technology is around 4 to 5 years, which is that after you deploy a radio access technology, the next 4 to 5 years, you are under pressure to then begin to think about the next level, which is if you deploy 4G now, in the next 4 to 5 years, I expected to deploy 5G. And this has become very, very serious. That even if you don't want to deploy, regulation might force you to deploy, competition might force you to upgrade, regulation might force you to upgrade as well. I remember my network, recently we were told to vacate our 3.4 megahertz and gigahertz spectrum for 5G. So a lot of things will make you move to the next technology. What that means is that operators then have 4 to 5 years to get their investment and the return on their investment, which might be some level of pressure. So operators then need to begin to put this in mind when they are deploying these solutions to understand that we are in a business that in 4 to 5 years or 4 to 6 years max, if we're not able to recoup our investment and return, there's a problem. The next is 5G will be a lot faster. We know that, an average person on the street knows that one of the things, the benefit of 5G is that the speed becomes better, and of course, as you move upward the G, 1G, 2G, 3G, the only thing that is common to the user is that the speed has increased. But more exciting are the solutions that ride on the 5G technology, which are massive IoT, like Mr. Daniel has said, massive IoT, which is pervasive IoT, which means many devices are now connected. It is estimated that by year 2050, over 1 billion devices will be on the internet, and they will be riding on the 5G technology, which then opens new opportunities to people. You've been hearing a lot about Metaverse, Facebook, in fact, changed its name to Meta. Microsoft has done a lot of research and is also has a lot of solutions in the Metaverse already. So these are technologies that would then begin to ride on 5G. And this then opens opportunities. So we have a problem in this part of the world, really, of the buying power, which is an average person just wants to buy the internet, which is like the basic need. So we're thinking, okay, so what do we then do to make these other technologies, VR, AR, IoT, and automation, cost effective and affordable for people in Africa? So this is an open new set of opportunities for entrepreneurs in Africa to begin to find cost-effective solutions that can ride on the 5G technology. Another thing that I would like to talk about is partnership. Partnership is key and will be key in the future of work and in the future that we're in already. So the line between competition and partnership is becoming very blurry. Recently, I think 2 weeks ago, last week, the telcos in Nigeria were granted PSB license. PSB meaning payment service and banking license, which means these guys can then begin to do fintech solutions, momos of this world, fintech solutions, and begin to push out. Eventually, they will also need to partner with banks. So in a way, they are competing with banks, and in some way, they are partnering with banks. They have all the data. Banks already have the ecosystem for banking, and so there's a room for partnership. And so the future will be the future of partnership. Anybody who is averse to partnership does not have any launch in the future. So what we're saying then is 5G would then need to partner with the small guy who has a laptop at the corner of his room, who is building a solution on VR, virtual reality, augmented reality. We then need to partner with that university student who has an IoT and automation solution, and then wants to meet a big, massive MTN, for instance, and say, I have this solution to deploy. And that's the future, and that's the way we begin to see the future, to see that, there's indeed a lot of opportunity in the future that we're going into. In the future, where 5G, of course, reigns and is at the center of the network.
Thanks, Praise.
Thank you.
We really, really appreciate. And now, as a parting shot for each of my panelists, I think the key challenge I'm going to throw back to you, there have been a number of consumer behaviors around 5G.
Sorry, you are very faint. You are very, very faint.
And now, is it better?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I was talking about, in terms of the adoption of 5G, there have been a number of consumer behaviors that we've noted. What are your thoughts on this? And also, these reflections in terms of consumer behavior, will they have an impact on monetization of 5G? And I'd like each one of you to answer this question as part of your parting shot as we wind up this amazing conversation. So, Anthony? Mr. Obama?
Who do you want to go first?
Yeah, who wants to go first?
Let me go first. Listen, I don't think it's about consumer behavior. It's about solving real life problems. So when we are talking about 5G, we should stop talking about spectrum. We should stop talking about AI, massive IoT. We should tell them, if your kid has got to do work online, this technology can solve your problem. If we can connect our hospitals, we can make use of expertise in one part of the country through using technology, and 5G can enable this. That way, if you're solving real life problems, then the issue of the consumer, goes away. Lastly, in Kenya, when the issue of mobile money came, it was solving a problem of putting money in envelopes, putting them in vehicles to be taken up country. So when the mobile money solved that problem, there was nobody. My mother is illiterate, but nobody has trained her to use M-Pesa. She can use M-Pesa because it solved her problem. That's how I take it. Thank you.
Thank you. So you're right. It moves from 0 to 100 very fast. Next, Alfred. Alfred, your thoughts?
All right. And if you really think about 5G, really, it's, to a large degree, it's a revolution on how, or an evolution with regards to how radio actually work, and therefore getting more from the same spectrum or from a larger spectrum, larger data input or output. So that actually means that for us who are actually using that service, it enhances our user experience with whatever applications, with whatever technology that exists. And just like Daniel said, we're really looking at what problems do we face on a day-to-day basis, and how can we mitigate those problems, grow beyond those problems by means of technology. So rather than looking at it as something to fear, it would even be more better to understand the technology, what it does, how it interfaces or reacts with us as humans, and therefore leading to a greater adoption of this technology from the service provider point of view, from the regulatory point of view, from the technology point of view, and primarily so from the individual view.
And finally, praise in a minute or two.
Yeah, so what I think would happen eventually would be that, of course, the pandemic has brought a new dimension into work. Currently, I go to office rarely. I spend less on fuel. I spend more on internet, so I don't get to fuel my car as much as I buy data for the internet. So what that means is that a lot of things that we do, that would take us to commute, will reduce. And that also will speak to 5G. And talking about user behavior, there will be something called telemedicine, which means that your doctor will be able to diagnose you in your sitting room and will be able to tell you what exactly is happening to you. In virtual reality, you will be able to meet and probably go on a date via the 5G network, using the 5G network and all of that. So there is a whole lot of solutions that can ride on that. And so we know that the future is exciting. But one of the things you may also need to take away from this is, yes, there is indeed 5G. Yes, it's going to be fast. But there are also competitions that are already standing to compete with the 5G technology. Elon Musk Starlink, is talking about how to use VSAT and satellite telecommunications to begin to deploy high-speed internet as well. So what that means effectively is that the future is exciting, and there will be a lot of competition, which which eventually would then drive down the cost of internet, because users would then have a lot of options. So talking about user behavior, people will be able to do a whole lot remotely, and also the cost of this technology will reduce because of competition. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Praise. And I want to ask my audience, do you have any burning questions regarding the particular topic today? Does anyone have a query? Or are we all set to plug into 5G and, activate our networks and leverage? Or are there two questions? Okay, so maybe we can have the two. And my panel, please be ready. These are the guys who actually actualize things. So, Michael?
So, okay, we know with 5G that the signal length is quite short, so you'll need a lot of repeaters. Inside this building, you might need something. Generally, that means there's a change. The infrastructure change also has an aesthetic change to how cities would look. So we're going to end up having something that looks more towards what we see in movies with lots of antennas everywhere. Is there a concern, especially for Africa, where we try to build cities which are very green and there's a lot of life going on, that this kind of infrastructure might ruin that for cities? Is there going to be legislation or some practices around building these repeaters or other devices in shapes which are aesthetically pleasing for the city?
I love the sustainability angle. Anyone want to?
All right, Rosemary, can you project what the person said? We really can't hear here. We can't hear the first thing here.
Sorry, you didn't get the question?
Yeah, we didn't get the question. Maybe you can help us project it.
Yes, so what Michael is asking is, he's talking about the aesthetics of 5G. In terms of 5G is going to be built, we're needing a number of repeaters and things like that. We come from a very aesthetically beautiful part of the world. He's requesting, or even asking, are there ways in which we will feature the design to make sure that we still maintain the beauty of, where it is that you're from? Michael, have I given justice to your question? Perfect.
All right. Okay. So if I may butt in, yeah. So there are different radios that have whatever to them, fabrications to them. I remember when we first started deploying GSM in Nigeria. Remember a very beautiful mast that looks like a palm tree. So there's a lot of creativity that can go into these things in terms of aesthetics.
Okay.
You would have rooftop antenna. You would have in-built systems that look very beautiful, So in terms of aesthetics, that will be taken care of. If that is what you want, if that is your particular requirement, yeah.
So Michael, Prince is saying that we can have them even look like palm trees, such that if we're here, we don't have to spoil our view of Mombasa. Yeah.
Rose, if I may jump in,
yes, actually,
imagine I disagree that we have a beautiful. Have you ever seen a site where there are towers? You've got 5, 6 towers next to each other, carrying simple antennas. So I don't think we are coming from a good place, but we are going to a good place. Why? Because the frequencies that we are using for 5G are very high.
Yeah.
So the antennas are going to be small. They are going to be unobtrusive, maybe on lampposts, on buildings. If you are using the millimeter wave, there will be in a corner of a building and you can put something that looks like a bulb or something, So I think that 5G in terms of aesthetics is going to do better than 1G, 2G, 3G, and 4G because you won't need those massive towers because the coverage, if you're going to deliver intense, massive amounts of data, you have to do it to the proximity to where the data is being used. Therefore, you have to use maybe like Wi-Fi. If you don't know what Wi-Fi routers or antennas look like, you wouldn't know. They are just think they're part of the building. Thank you.
Thank you very much for giving us hope that there's hope for a bit of beauty with this new technology. And on to our final question.
Hi, Rosemary.
Hi.
This question is to you.
Yes.
You're in public policy.
Yes.
What is the policy around 5G for Safaricom? As a subscriber, I'm very interested to know, and how will that translate to me enjoying a connected experience with the Safaricom network?
I must say, yes, we really look forward to everything that we'll do, and I'm a firm believer. Even today, the device that I hold is 5G enabled. So we're just waiting to see how much more we can engage in terms of speeds, in terms of latency, in terms of the amount of communication that you can do, in terms of clarity, and being able to do much more with the bandwidth that you have. So we really look forward to that. And yes, hoping to offer all our customers amazing products. And if I go more than this, Harry will charge me for marketing. And I don't want to...
Rose, I have to jump in because Harry can charge you, just pay, because the one who invited us here, and we were late. So we can also start demanding our pound of flesh. So tell Harry to relax. Listen, in Kenya, the Communication Authority recently published the 5G roadmap, which identifies all the spectrum that's available and is prioritized them as high priority, medium, and low priority. So the policy that an operator, whichever operator it is going to adopt, I think also depends very much on what policy the country takes. So as African countries and people in the policy, we need to come out very clearly with spectrum availability roadmaps so that operators can also develop their roadmaps around those national roadmaps and policies, and especially use cases so that they can deploy this in solving, as I said, real-life problems that we are facing. Thank you. I think we managed to get away before Harry charged you anything. Thank you.
And thank you so much, because that is a critical thing. Spectrum is a resource that will actually allow us to make use of this technology. And if it's not available, then we don't get to benefit. So thank you so much for the amazing panel. Let's end this before I run up a bill for my amazing organization, Safaricom. So guys, thank you so much. And for the lovely audience right now, it's been a pleasure.